Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Indie Artist Music Hustle with Blonde Intelligence. I'm your host, Miss Ronnie, where I always seek to give you exquisite cranial repertoire. This week, I am going to talk about how you not being professional can seep into your professional life. Um, I remember doing an interview with a media specialist. Well, I'm not going to call her a media specialist. She's more than that. Her name is Khadija Glasgow. She is out of Trinidad and Tobago. She lives in um, Atlanta now, with the last time I checked. But I remember during our interview how we talked about how the station that she worked for sometimes would not hire artists to do radio work because they would make the station costly mistakes. And I've talked about this before, but I even I was it just made me think about, even with me doing this show, um scheduling is so hard with everybody having their own lives and other jobs and living in different time zones and different countries and oceans separating you and everything. And it just made me think about when I was scheduling this week, I had one young man, and I'm not going to say any names, to hound me down about interviewing. And, okay. So we set up the interview. He got confused on the time zones. Cool. I do understand that. Then it was, he had a personal thing to go on, and I understood that. So I was like, let me make sure when I provide this link that it is going to be in his time zone only. Now, after all of that, and him contacting me about being on the show and everything, and it comes time for the interview, he does not show up. Now, I know that other things could happen, but how serious would you take going to a performance or any other type of promotion that you were trying to do based on when the actual time came, you were a no call, no show? So in this episode, I am going to play some snippets from Khadija's interview to give some pointers to artists if you are planning on doing any promotion or media or anything pertaining to the release of your music or promoting yourself as a brand, because that's another thing that you will have to do. You don't ever just do music. You are branding yourself to be able to sell other types of merchandise, to get other endorsements. So listen to Khadija, and I'll be back with you. Everyone, Miss Khadija.
Hi, thank you so much, Mr. Ronnie, for having me.
Thank you for coming.
It's always a pleasure to sit on shows like this to talk about the creative industries and the positioning of the creative industries, especially in a time like this, specifically music. As you said, I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm born and bred. I went to school there. I grew up there. I met my husband in Atlanta.
Okay.
And that is the main reason why I made the transition, because I was very, very comfortable home in the Caribbean, and from working in the Caribbean, I've had the opportunity to work throughout the world. I was a member of the Trinidad and Tobago National Theatre Company that allowed me to travel, a part of the Malik Folk Performing Company and the Festival Theatre Company, some very reputable creative arts spaces in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean and the larger world by extent. And so, I was very, very comfortable. I was doing drive time radio. I also did a talk show on the number one station, CNC3 in Trinidad and Tobago. And my husband was, at that time, my boyfriend, the long distance. I got an also. And so, of course, I chose love.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm here.
I know when we spoke earlier, you was telling me that you have worked in both the secular and the Christian section.
Mhm.
So just tell me a little bit about the difference in working in those two areas within the same, I would say, melting pot.
Right. So straight out of school, I had the opportunity to work with some of the renowned artists in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean for that matter. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you ever heard of Destra Garcia. She's a very popular soca star. I was a creative director for a number of years,
Okay.
working with her. From St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I've worked with Skinny Fabulous,
Okay.
management, bookings, creative directing. Um, from Barbados, I've worked with Lil Rick. And then within that whole landscape of music, I've also worked with soca is an indigenous genre of music to Trinidad and Tobago. It was created by the late Garfield Blackman, Rashoti I, and his son, Isaac Blackman. After seeing how well I work with other artists, he said, Khadija, I want you to manage me. And that is when I really started working. Oh my gosh, no, I'm leaving out somebody. How dare me leave out somebody on an international platform like this? I actually first started working with Jay Prince. At that time,
Okay.
he was really up and coming.
How could you leave out Jay Prince?
He was getting a lot of international recognition throughout the Caribbean, Africa. Work they saw me doing in the secular, knowing that I'm a Christian, and
Mm-hmm.
I will not hesitate to say that on any platform. In working with him as well, a lot of other Christian entities started recognizing my work, and then everybody was interested,
Okay.
and working in the media as well. I'm working on secular radio stations to then working on a Christian radio station. And this particular Christian radio station was a part of an amalgam of other radio stations.
Okay.
So the media network, Guardian Media Limited in Trinidad and Tobago, had radio stations throughout the Caribbean and throughout the world because we were also online. And
Mm-hmm.
in doing so, working on Sky 99.5 FM, also, and that being a part of Guardian Media enabled me to work on the secular stations as well, such as 105.1 and Slam. And to be quite honest, because of my position on the both sides, it was a seamless integration because most of the same principles applied in terms of management, in terms of understanding your niche market and appealing to those markets. It was a balancing act for me for sure. Okay, this is a huge difference. There's only one thing that I can say was a huge difference, and it's in terms of corporate response.
Mm-hmm.
And corporate response is that most corporate entities do not like to align with religious organizations, right? So while I would get a lot of endorsements for the secular artists, a bit more challenging to get endorsements for the gospel artists. And believe it or not, while both, let's say, Isaac Blackman and Skinny Fabulous have similar level of talent, people would quicker go, the corporate entities would quicker go for Skinny Fabulous because he has a world alignment and not a religious alignment. And
so
that
they
was
felt like that his audience would be bigger. So
yes, that was a major part of it. So that was challenging.
okay.
That was very challenging. Even with media, it's only, I would say, like 3 years into um being actively in the media, being actively doing drive time radio, that I actually saw corporate entities understanding that yes, there is a market that is interested in your product or your services from the Christian community. And that is when I started seeing a turnaround in their response to coming on board with some of our initiatives. And I also saw where a lot of entities were buying into individuals. So, for example, for my show, one of the biggest telecommunications services in Trinidad and Tobago, TSTT, they bought into me as an individual. So I had to do a special feature for them on the show and all of that. That is where they spent their money in terms of me producing something that they specifically want to align themselves to.
With being in radio and have been in artist management, which one did you find the most fulfilling? Which one the most challenging? And the one that you feel like that you have to exert more personality in?
In terms of the most challenging, I would definitely say artist management. Thank God, thank Jesus, praise Him. Worked with over the years have been wonderful individuals, wonderful.
Good.
So I didn't have to deal with, artists who are married having groupies and, all those strange things that a lot of a lot of artists you hear about on the tabloid and stuff. Thank God I didn't have to deal with things like that. And there were artists who believed in themselves and their product. So it was particularly easy working with them as the talent. But in terms of finding gigs specifically for the Christian artists, unless it's a Christian event, I would have to sell very hard. And that was challenging. But to look back and see some of the grounds we've covered, I look back and I say, wow, I did that? We did that? So for example, just to give you an example, I don't know if you ever heard of Carnival. It's massive. Trinidad and Tobago is the mecca of Carnival. And while Isaac Blackman's father was the creator of the genre of music that fuels Carnival, he's also the inventor of the alternative, which is Jamu. So I got the producers to respect him as the son of the inventor of this genre of music that fuels your show. So where he is concerned, I was able to use the leverage of his positioning, and he is to Trinidad and Tobago. His family is to Trinidad and Tobago what the Malis are to Jamaica.
Okay.
I love media. Okay. You see what you're doing there? That is usually where I am. So we hold the network and all the radio stations at a particular standard. Right? And the thing about some of these non-professionals but very popular people is that they make genuine mistakes that can cost the station or cost whoever they're representing dearly.
And I hope that you got some good pointers from her. I know I did. I learned a lot. Just even by listening to some of the things that she was talking about. Artists, you have to understand that even some other people, I mean, I know that I'm a hard person sometimes when it comes to business, because I feel like that I communicate very well. And if I lay something out and we agree on that's what's going to happen, I expect for that to happen. And there's different levels to success. And I set small goals. I know I worked with an artist once. I was supposed to be the manager. I don't know how I ended up being the social media manager, but I know I moved that page from 1,600 followers to 4,000 followers in a small span of time. And it works like that if you have a team that's going to work together. Of course, there's other promotions, and if you have likability, what your foundation is, and everything. But if you're inconsistent, and I am guilty of that on my own social media because I do so many other things. This is not the only business that I have. Working with artists with their music registrations is not the only business that I have. I have other things that I do, and some of them is for relaxation. But I have a goal in mind of what I want. I do my merchandising that way because that is what I am trying to do. So when an artist is branding himself or herself or themselves, or however you want to be addressed, um, it just you have to keep in mind that if you have a reputation of being inconsistent, if you have a reputation of always being drunk, if you have a reputation of showing up late, if you have a reputation of not meeting deadlines, if you have a reputation of not showing up for interviews, if you have a reputation of not being in the studio during your selected time or whatever, all those things, if you have to keep anybody else waiting and you're only doing it because of you, then all of that is going to reflect into what you're doing as an artist. You could be the best artist, but all those other things that keep you from being successful. And you have to have people around you that's going to tell you the truth, not just cater to whatever it is you want. Now, I wasn't there and would not be there, but even with they was talking about the R. Kelly camp, how you had the oh yeah yeah be like a yes man, and I'm a grown woman. I can't be a yes man to anybody, not even on anything that I'm working on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to follow your rules. I'm going to work to the best of my ability, and my ability is really great. So if you let me spread my wings, then hey, we're gonna be great. So I just feel like that artists need to take more consideration into that because these AI artists that's going to come that I am so excited about, I don't think that they would be able to take necessarily over the music industry, but I think that it could be collaboration crazy in a certain aspect. And I've been thinking about it, and I was talking to one, and I know I'm moving into another subject, but I was talking to one of my business partners, and I was telling him uh all the possibilities and how I was taking all these trainings this next coming up year on AI. I took a training on it, and my curiosity, my interest in everything is just has been piqued. And so with my creative mind, I have some ideas that I want to try. And even with this new artist that I'm working with, hey, I got some ideas. But artists have to worry about those things. I mean, I'm not worried, but be mindful of how other people look at you. I taught something one time, and the question was it was two questions. Do other people see you the same way you see yourself? Why or why not? And just because you have eyes, does that make you see? Can you have sight with no vision? And I think some of the artists is not getting a vision. There's a vision to it. So when you start your journey, you need to have some idea of where you're trying to go. And when you're building your image and your brand, you don't change up because other people telling you that you need to do it. But you do need to be authentic to yourself. You do need to have good work ethic. And the main thing, I used to be a show manager, and one boy, he couldn't perform unless he had a blunt. Okay, cool. But you need to do it in time. When it's time to call your name to come on, you up next. You need to be up next. But anyway, like, share, subscribe. If you're on the podcast platform, any of your major podcast platforms, remember to download. I have added the podcast Indie Artist Music Hustle to several directories here in Arkansas, in local directories here in Arkansas and in the Texas area. I am still working on adding them to small local directories. You know, when you say, what podcasts are in Arkansas? What can I listen to? What subject area? I want my name to pop up there. So I am trying to take over all of that little space that I had left open right now. In the United States, I haven't been charting on the podcast, but everybody else worldwide, internationally, I have been charting every week. I thank you for your downloads, for your listens, for your subscribes. I don't know what's going on with YouTube. For some reason, I am just not able to get into the algorithms. I'm not going to worry about it. I keep posting there, but I'm just not going to concentrate there if I have to work that hard to get it done. I'm on all these other platforms. So remember to like, share, subscribe, download. You can find us on all podcasting platforms. You can find us on streaming live on social media. You can find the podcast and the channel for YouTube on www.blonde-intelligence.com. Remember, we're on Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, all those places. And if you listen to this on RP Entertainment Radio, it's rpentradio.com. It's based out of Dallas. You can listen there. And I will see you next week. Bye.
Hey girl, let me tell you about this podcast.
Girl, everybody has a podcast these days.
But this one interviews new and interesting indie artists. It's called Indie Artist Music Hustle with Blonde Intelligence.
Really? Where can I find it?
It's on all podcasting platforms, streams live on social media, and on rpentradio.com.
What'd you say it was called again?
It's called Indie Artist Music Hustle with Blonde Intelligence.
Girl, I'm gonna have to check her out.
Give it a check, girl.